Hello all, and welcome to tonight's beer comparison review, which I am dubbing the World's Gone Mad review, because the world's gone mad. Come on. Well, I don't know when I'm going to upload this, but right now it's November 15th, and those of you who, at least who are American, can admit that the world has gone mad. No matter what political affiliation you are. I proudly belong to the beer party. So, what are we comparing tonight? I thought since I picked up two beers, which are similar hybrid styles here, that is, of course, Hopzeit Autumn IPA from Deschutes and Lagunitas Tuberfest. Both of these are hybrid styles in the sense that they are a hybrid of the American IPA, India Pale Ale, and the German Marzen style. So both of these are heavily hopped Marzen lagers, and hopped in the New World style. So, without further ado, let's go and do our comparison here. Pour it fairly vigorously because I want big heads on both of these. I really need to get matching glassware for both of them. It would be a fairer comparison review, I'd say. Oopsie, maybe a little bit too vigorous here. Oy vey. Okay, maybe a little bit too vigorous. But that's okay. Hopzeit, Tuberfest. Okay, what can we tell? Coloration seems to be remarkably similar. I can't really show you it because the way my lamp is angled, but they're both rather coppery orange red. Of course, the Hopzeit, being bottle conditioned, is slightly cloudy, whereas the Tuberfest is completely it doesn't have any cloudiness to it. Coloration remarkably similar. Condition of the head also remarkably similar. Same coloration, same sort of thick texture. Both of them have settled down to about a finger's worth. Let's go in and get the smell of it. Both of them have a very distinct hop-forward sort of bouquet. Very different though, probably due to the different mix of hops being used in each. Both of them are pretty much American style. Using American hops. This one is a little bit more on the piney side. Also has a bit more of the malting, the bready malty kind of showing through in the nose. This one, very interesting kind of fruity, almost ozony kind of zing to it that is melded well with this almost toasted bread kind of smell. So you could almost think of it as like a sort of marmalade, fresh toasted marmalade kind of smell going there. And also dankness. This is Lagunitas. Wouldn't be Lagunitas unless you had some dank smells in there. I should have gone and got myself a cup of water, but oh well. This one comes across, Hopzeit comes across as very Marzen-y very much a stereotypical Marzen with an increased sort of hop presence. So you got that kind of toasted bread, that sort of thick mouthfeel, And on top of that, you definitely get a lot of grapefruit style kind of rindiness, a little bit of fruitiness, a little bit, but mostly that sort of rindiness, a bit of resin. And an interesting, nicely clean finish. If you could excuse me here, I'm going to go and fill this up really quickly with some water so I can clean my palate. The benefits of living in a small place, eh? I need to think of these when I do the comparison ones, especially for very hoppy beers. This one, zing hits you right in the front. What was that zing? Kind of fruity, very dank, and also toasty. If this one is more bready, I would say that this one has more toast, more of a kind of burnt and woody edge to it. The malting, that is. Very different beers in taste profile. Even more so than in the nose. I need to remember not to go and put too many wet things on this shelf here because it's pure particle board, and you know how particle board reacts against fluids. What's interesting about this one is, well, interesting about both is how the hops sort of approach it. If I could explain it, what I would say is this one definitely comes across as sweeter, and yet has a more dry finish than this one. And please excuse me for not saying the full names each time. Hopzeit and Tuberfest. Hopzeit tends to keep its head a little better. I'm assuming because of the bottle conditioning. That wee bit of krausening allows for a bit of head retention there. So, 7.0, 7.5 ABV. So, if I was going to say, it's very hard for me. I'm trying to decide right now, which one do I like better? Well, it's actually really hard for me. This one actually comes across as recognizably a Marzen. It's there's all those IPA hops in there, complete with that sort of hoppy, drying finish, rindy, resiny notes. Yet, underneath, you taste that malting, and you smell it, and you know that that's a Marzen lager base. Tuberfest, I would actually struggle to go and define this as a lager. The finish is very far from clean. Lots of residual malting there, it doesn't clear the palate. That said, it's not bad tasting. And it's, if I'm going to say it, you know, with a little bit of focus, I would probably say, yeah, this is probably a lager, but not one that doesn't, you know, it doesn't finish all that clean. That said, excuse me, I don't know what's up in my nose. I've been starting to go and drizzle up every time I drink. That said, this one is a bit more complex taste-wise, if probably a little bit more adventurous, as well as pushing the envelope a bit more. This one, I would have to say, on the mix of it, I'm going to take the one that's a little bit, you know, I'm going to take the Hopzeit. Why? Not because I think this one's bad or anything. They're both pretty interesting beers. But this one is much more recognizably a hybrid style in which you can kind of point out the, you know, the two styles that it's hybridizing. This one, I'd be a lot more challenged to kind of, in the blind tasting, kind of identify what it is that is being hybridized outside of the fact that it's very hoppy. Very interesting interplay in between the malting and the hops. Again, that toasted bread, almost like marmalade on top of it. I guess it warms up a bit more of a rindy edge to it as well. One thing though, I would be able to identify this in a blind one. That very trademark Lagunitas dankness. You cannot get past every single beer that Lagunitas puts out that's heavily hopped has that sort of undistinguishable house taste to it. And it might not just be the hops, it might also be the yeast too. I'm starting to wonder if I'm allergic to beer. That would be just a true tragedy if I was. So, on the balance, since it's already past the Oktoberfest season, you'll probably just find these remaindered on the shelf. And to be honest, they are, well, this one's already kind of gone, and I can see why. Lagunitas has quite a fan base. This one, I am still finding it on the shelf, which means you'll probably still be able to find it on the shelf, and it's still good. You know, it'll probably be good until well into winter. So if you still see it, definitely do yourself a favor and pick it up. Remember, bottle condition, which means don't pour it all out in the glass, unless you really like the effects of yeast in your living yeast in your system. Then again, even so, pouring out to the bottom definitely changes the flavor profile to much more yeastier than it should be. So again, try to maintain that little bit there that doesn't get into the glass. Both of these very interesting beers. Both of these you really should go and try to do a vertical on. Why? Because it's a hybrid style that you're not seeing much. Perhaps brand new as you know, as craft beer drinkers, you know, compete for an ever-shrinking share of a market with all these new local, you know, nano breweries coming up by experimenting. And here we are seeing two very experimental, well, I'm not going to say very experimental styles, but somewhat experimental styles for mass market release. And we're given a chance to kind of put them side by side. Will we see something more? Will we see a Sierra Nevada well, probably not a Sam Adams, considering how Sam Adams is a little bit conservative when it comes to hoppy beers. You know, will we see more of these? Well, considering how well I believe both of these came out, probably. So, that's your beer review for tonight, folks. Cheers and Prost.